All right. Well, we played football on Friday and didn't go quite like we wanted it to. Some good things, but definitely came out of it a little banged up. So, got a buddy tonight, Mr. Joe Patrick, in the house to help us talk about it. Let's get into it. And welcome in, everybody. It is episode 176 of Out of Your Falcon Mind, Atlanta Falcons fan cast. My name is John, your host, joined by Mr. Joe Patrick of 929 The Game tonight. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
John, I'm good. It was good to be back out there at Flowery Branch again. The guys were away for about a week for me personally, so I haven't gotten to see them up close, and it was just nice to be back. Nice to be back in action.
Good deal. Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, that's right. They've been in Miami for a week. Yeah. So,
Took an eternity in training camp.
Right. Yeah. And I think the last time you and I were I think we crossed paths on the Falcoholics draft show.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Those were some great discussions, man. I loved having those talks in the wake of the Penix pick, both the ones that happened Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday during the day, during those kind of marathons that people were doing. Those were some interesting discussions, I thought, and they kind of helped us all kind of put our heads around what was happening at the time.
100%, because there was three people that was like, okay, really good with the pick, and everybody else was kind of like, what the hell happened, and it was like, you're right, yeah, everybody's able to talk it out, and then we were like, you know what, this did make a lot of sense. Like I can see where this is going, so it made more sense for sure. So, and guys, look, if y'all are new to the show, welcome in. My partner Mike, obviously not here tonight, and if you've never seen the show and you want to know what Mike is like, just go watch the 10 stages of being a Falcons fan, and that's just Mike encapsulated right there. Until he's amazing. So, but that's what's Mike will be back in about 2 or 3 weeks. He's just taking care of some personal business, but he will be back before you know it. But and like I said, if you missed last week, hey, we're on Twitter again this week. Joe had to go premium. I had to finally bite the bullet.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing at the beginning of this year. I was too sick of splitting quotes up into multiple tweets. Yeah. So for me, for work wise, I felt like it would be a benefit to do it.
Well, totally. And since we were gone for 6 weeks and I got back, I'm like, what the hell? We got to pay to be on Twitter now. So I had no idea that, when I set the stream last Thursday, I hit it go live, and it's like, oh yeah, you can't go to Twitter because you're not premium. I'm like, what? Wow. So, and we normally get a decent amount of people watching on Twitter. So if y'all are watching on Twitter, hey, thanks for joining us. If you go over to YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe while you're there. Just help us get those subscribers up. I think we're closing on 1,600, so it'd be cool to hit that, and then just shoot on up to 2,000 by the end of the year. It'd be great, man. You can always email us, atlfalconfancast@gmail.com. We do have merch. I'll get that website scrolling along the bottom of the screen here pretty soon. If you're interested in any shirts or hats, or actually, we don't have hats yet, but we're working on it. Coffee mugs and whatnot. Any Out of Your Falcon Mind merchandise, we got it there. And yeah, that's it. So, Joe, before we get into it, man, did you watch some of the Olympics, man? Did you catch the closing ceremonies or anything?
I didn't watch the closing ceremonies. I honestly did not watch as much Olympics as I probably wished I could have, or wished I did, honestly. I would honestly, a lot of times I would see the Twitter reaction to some crazy race. I'm like, I didn't have it on, or I wasn't watching it at that moment. But I did watch some of it. It was great, and I got to credit Peacock for the thing they did with the Gold Zone. That was
so
great.
Easy.
It made it so much more fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. That's probably how I got to see as much as I did, because you just go there and you can just pick whatever the hell you want to watch it. But yeah, it was cool. We watched it. Like I told the guys last Thursday on the show, probably more than I've ever watched. And I mean, It was just because of that, and it was never really on time. It was always after the fact.
Yeah.
And I saw the basketball game live. That was insane. Steph Curry just.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was ridiculous. That was so awesome. Just one of those iconic moments. It's so fun as a sports fan when you see something iconic like that happening in real time, and you kind of know it right when it happens.
Oh man, yeah, dude, that final three. I mean, just fading away. I'm like, no. I mean, me and my son both. We just started yelling and running around. It was nuts, man. It was just, it was so awesome to watch. And then the girls, by 1 point over France too. So, it was all in the. Did you watch the women's soccer by chance?
I did. I watched this. Yeah,
that was amazing.
Soccer. Yeah, that was
that
great.
was awesome. See Mallory score, and then just because that was you were a fan of Premier League too, right? You watched Premier League?
Oh yeah.
Who's your team?
I'm a Tottenham fan. I got a scarf hanging right there.
Okay, well, I will not show you my Chelsea scarf then because it's somewhere. It's in the
I know.
office.
I don't run
So,
into many Tottenham fans around here.
well, it's funny because like when we just decided, I think it was 2013 or 14, because it was when we knew the United was coming, right? We knew when they
Yep.
were coming to town. Like, so, okay, we need to start just kind of watching and get familiar with it. So we just picked. I turned on Premier League one day, and it was Chelsea versus Arsenal, and I think it was Eden Hazard went for like 6 goals. It was insane. Like, and I was just
Yeah.
like, that guy's amazing. I like. Well, we're gonna watch this team. So like, that's how I picked Chelsea. That was it.
Well, you made a better
So
decision than picking Arsenal, so at least you have that.
exactly, and it was fun. I mean, up until Roman got called it a day. It was going really well, and it's been really since Todd Bowley bought the team. It's been up and down and all around. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with it. But anyway, yeah, following Chelsea and seeing what Emma Hayes was able to do with that women's team there.
Yeah.
Super excited when she was brought over or when she took the job with the U.S. women's team, and she did a phenomenal job. So yeah. Anyway, enough of the Olympics talk. We will get on to actually. Let me say what's up, Liam. What's up, buddy? Watching downstairs, I'm sure. Damsky, what up, Adam? Good to see you, buddy.
What up, Damsky?
Ryan, what's going on, dude? Been a while, man. Wallace, good to see you, buddy. And you guys in the chat and on Twitter as well. If y'all comment on Twitter, I should be able to see it here. So feel free to throw any questions at Joe, anything you want to ask. We're just gonna get into the game and some of the roster moves we've made and just overall thoughts on everything that's going on. So I guess the biggest news before we get to the game, Justin Simmons in town today and tomorrow, which coming off the Helms news, which nobody knew until earlier, but looks like it's an ankle, I guess, according to Coach Raheem. And then, he said he's going to miss significant time. And speaking from someone who's done that, I've torn the ligament several times in my right ankle, broke the foot as well. Like it's going to be a little bit. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure he'll come back maybe quicker than me, but I was, in high school when I did it. Yeah, it takes a while because those are just nagging little things. And to be able to really plant and turn and cut, you've got to feel really, really good on it, especially if there's anything torn or anything like that. But what did you find out on that front?
Yeah, we didn't get any. They don't have to release injury information technically during this point of the year, but they did say it was an ankle. Yeah, and that Raheem said he'd miss a quote unquote significant period of time. So that tells me there's something. I'm expecting it to be kind of like a half season type of thing, just kind of based off of that language. Now it could be more like the situation Troy Anderson was in last year, where it was like basically just about a full season, but maybe not quite. And ultimately, so they might want to, wait their time before they put him actually on the season ending IR, but certainly seems like he's going to be out for a substantial period of time. And, it does with the Justin Simmons, rumors or reports popping up today. It does make you think about what the team thinks about Richie Grant as that, if he's the option to go to as the safety, I mean, these reports would indicate that they're not totally comfortable with that situation. So, and I can't blame them, So, I think this is a move that obviously is going to be welcomed by, I think, every Falcons fan if they're able to pull it off. I'm a little bit, but I'll just say I'm a little bit surprised that they would do this, because the sense that I've always gotten from the front office and just kind of their general kind of philosophy on how they're going to build the team out. Obviously, it's like started at the quarterback. There's a lot of different dynamics, but the basic kind of principle is that we're going to try to make ourselves give ourselves a high floor for as long of a period of time as possible, and then wait. Like, let's get into seasons. If things start breaking right for us, maybe then you make a big move. We saw Terry Fontenot kind of potentially dipping into the trade market, which hasn't typically been a thing for NFL teams, obviously, but, dipping into that market potentially for an edge rusher didn't end up happening. But I kind of thought that they might wait some time until they made a move like this. But for a guy like Justin Simmons, you probably don't have that much time because he's going to sign with somebody. So you got to make a move.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think maybe the combination of him and Trice going down, because you lose a guy you think is going to be the contributor, even though he's a rookie, as a pass rusher, and then you lose a guy who's going to be, obviously, I guess safety 1B, kind of because you guys and that's been there, and we've heard it since really OTAs that DeMarco was taking first team reps in, and it looked like Richie kind of got the job, kind of it's his now, but we were planning on probably seeing some 3 safety looks for sure, with DeMarco in there, and now with him gone, it's like maybe like okay, well, we're missing DeMarco, we're missing Trice. Let's go shore up the back end, because that's of the guys that are out there. I mean, and barring a trade, which we'll get into the possible edge trades in a second, but that seems to be like the most likely. You pair Justin Simmons with Jesse Bates, and my God, you've got probably the best safety duo in the league, pretty much immediately. So, then and no diss to Richie Grant. That's just that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But and moving on to Trice too, man, that sucks so bad because we said on the show on Thursday, like we have 5 of us on the show, and when we went around the panel, we're like, "What do you want to see?" We're like, "We don't want to see the cart come out." And damn it, if the cart didn't come out like almost immediately, and
it was ridiculous.
It was, man, and the Dolphins too. The Dolphins guys kept just dropping like flies.
There was a period, there was a stretch in that game where it felt like it was happening after every play. There was somebody down in that kind of late first quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't see DeMarco's at first, and I know you went. I think you tweeted that you went back and watched it. Looked like somebody got kind of whipped into his leg, which basically, But I did see Trice, and anybody that saw Trice, I mean, I knew it was an ACL as soon as I saw it. Just the way that knee buckled and like the way he just planted, I knew it, and so like that sucks so bad because it's not that he was going to be a double-digit sack guy, but you never know. And the fact he was going to be in on that rotation, and he had been making, I think, pretty good progress throughout training camp. Like, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, that's just it. Like regardless of whatever his stats would have ended up being, and I think I heard Aaron Freeman talking about this about the average stat line of someone drafted in his position as a rookie is very very meager stats. I definitely hear that, but the fact is that he was like part of this. Pretty much the starting kind of edge rushing rotation, like of these kind of DPR types that the Falcons have with Arnold. It was typically Arnold Ebiketie on one side, Braylon Trice on the other when they're in third down situations. So that's just, regardless of what the stats would be, that's just a piece you don't have anymore. And you got to figure out how to replace that, whether that's, God forbid, using James Smith-Williams more in like pass rushing roles, because he's like, people need to understand, he's like 290 pounds. Like he is not, I don't know what he's listed as, but he is an enormous man. So he called himself a plus sized outside linebacker, or he said that's how somebody else referred to him. So I thought that was very funny. It was like very kind of like PC way to say it. Yeah,
it's very 2024 of him. Yeah, exactly.
But maybe it's like using Caden Ellis more at the edge, which is obviously something that it could be an interesting wrinkle for this team. But and maybe it is an area they look to improve in the trade market. Obviously, I'm sure there's at least one guy in particular that we'll talk about here. But like, it just seems like that's clearly an area of need for this team at this point in time. I mean, it was before at both these positions. It was like the two positions where this team was was weak, and they just got weaker in both of them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about on Thursday. It's like we think we've got depth, but it's more perceived depth than anything. It's like we've got a bunch of guys, and they're young and they're athletic, and we got a couple of older guys in there, but more in the interior, and Zoe's been around the block a few times. Is AK? We'll talk about AK later on. Is he going to take a bigger role? And then you lose somebody like Trice. It's like, okay, damn, a big cog in that rotation just left. So now, does Caden step up? Because that was my thought. It was like, Caden was so successful coming off the edge in New Orleans, and that's where I think he likes to play. Is that something, we're going to see possibly him doing more of, or maybe even Troy doing some things, something like that with his athleticism, so who knows? But it just sucks, man. Because especially in the first game, and listen to the coach's press conference, it kind of sounds like he doesn't even care if there are games. I think he'd be just fine with practices, like, joint practices. Yeah,
totally. And I'd even be fascinated. It's probably very different if you were to ask the players whether they actually want to play in these games or not. Like the younger players, the players who are on the roster over clearly want the opportunities and relish those. But for the coaches, like they're geared towards getting their team ready to play for week 1. And this was exactly the reason why they don't want to have to put these teams through these situations. Like you may have heard Raheem Morris talking last week about the joint practices, and the reason why they love the joint practices and hate the preseason games is because they control how, they can better control guys from getting hurt from that exact scenario. Not always, because like Rondale Moore happened in a joint practice. That's just kind of the nature of it. That's the bad luck that you get with a non-contact injury. But man, it was just rough to see those guys go down. And unfortunately, it's just one of those things where like in Braylon Trice, it's like that wasn't caused by contact whatsoever.
No.
It's just an unfortunate situation when you put the pads on.
Yeah, he said he blamed himself for some of that. I'm like, I mean, that's the magnificent of you to do that. But it's like you can't. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. You got to play guys. Like you got to play young guys. And DeMarco's second year, he's gonna get in there and play some. So it sucks. But
I would be curious to know. Like, people can mention it in the chat, or whatever. But like, I feel like everybody is mostly on board with scrapping the preseason and just playing and adding another regular season game. Add the regular season game in the bye week, another bye week. I think most football fans will be happy with that.
I'm totally on. I forgot who I heard talking about like having a universal bye week, and I think it was a player. Damn it, I can't remember who it was. But anyway, it was. If somebody in the chat can remember or knows what I'm talking about, feel free to put it in there. But they're talking about having having the Pro Bowl during that week. Yeah, or like the Pro Bowl games. The Pro Bowl games. It was like, you were off that entire week. Every team was off. It was later in the season, like, week 13, week 14, something like that. They got a late season break. They had the Pro Bowl games, and whoever wanted to participate. And then, you finish the season off with, your last 4 games, and everybody's, nice and fresh and everything. So I thought it was a pretty cool idea. But yeah, I'm totally. If they want to cut it to 2 games, I'm fine with that. 1 game, okay, cool. Y'all want to have 17 joint practices? Go do that. Like, whatever. Like, just don't get hurt.
Because the other thing, like, from a fan's perspective, is I've been telling people this joke, which I think is very funny. We'll see if anybody else finds it funny. But do you know the comedian Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah.
He says, like, as a comedian, you can't be like a pancake. You're all exciting at first, but by the end, you're effing sick of them. And that's how preseason games are. It's like at the beginning, you're so excited for it. And like literally by the 4th quarter of that Falcons game, I was like cursing myself that I was still there, sitting there watching it.
I mean, I'm
an abomination of the sport.
Right. I mean, and before starting this show a couple of years ago, like I would never would have watched that entire game. But here I am watching the entire, and today I watched it again.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what the hell is wrong?
What I missed?
Watching this football again. Yeah, so that's that's what we chose to do. So here we are. And I'm not even getting paid for it. Like, I mean, very little. So I mean, I'm very sick and mad. But so anyway, I'll jump back in the chat real quick. Padre, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, dude. Berto, what's going on, man? Make sure y'all check out 95 North Falcons Talk Show. Catch out Berto and the fellas doing great work over there, man. Jamal, what's going on, dude? Good to see you, buddy. He said, shout out to my guy, Mike. Yeah, man, he's doing good. He's over in Lincoln, Nebraska, tearing it up over there, doing some work. He actually called me today. We were talking. He actually got a hotel room right next to the University of Nebraska. So he's having a hard time staying focused at the moment. So like I was like, dude, you're there to work, buddy. You're there to work. No, yeah, so you got to calm down. You're there to work. Let's see. Back It Up Binge. Good to see you guys, man. And so Back It Up Binge, that's a Orioles, also Miami Dolphins podcast. And yeah, man, love having you guys here, man. What's going on, big boy Brewski? Good to see you guys, man. In here, Chris, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Jay, what's going on, man? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I'm growing out the beard, and that's somebody said something last week after the fact. I think I got tweeted. It was like, man, like, did you get older? I'm like, no, I just stopped coloring my beard. I said, screw it. Like, I got tired of the stuff, and it's been gray for like 2 years. I just was like trying to hold on, like maybe if I put this color a little bit. And then I was just like, with it, man. It's going to be gray, but yeah, it's getting out there, man. And I appreciate the super chat, man. I still got to get a sounder. I'm working on it. We'll get it as soon as Mike gets back. Demetrius, what's up, man? Good to see you, DJ. And yeah, see, I mean, just yeah. I mean, I got good.
Knows.
Yeah, man. He does. He's he definitely good beer game with Berto. And I probably have to change the show. Like, it definitely shows a darker color beard. I look like I'm 15 years younger, so I got to change the cover of that. But anyway, man. So on to the game. Well, actually, let's hit those other roster moves before we get to the game. So we signed Jakeem Grant, wide receiver, right, and special teamer, basically, kind of the role that. Well, maybe take the role that we were hoping for Rondell Moore, kind of a similar type guy, right? Brought in Spencer Brown, running back. He's off and on the Panthers practice squad last year he was at least. Hilariously, we released Rourke and brought back John Paddock, which we were talking about before the show. I mean, you saw Paddock playing pretty well and thought it was kind of weird he got cut, and here we are, he's back again.
I'm fascinated by these moves. Like like I got to talk to John at some point here to ask what are you doing in the meantime? Like, did you know you were coming back the entire time, or like why the hell did that happen? But
give you a little wink on the outside. I mean, what are you doing?
I was telling you before we started, I'm at least kind of glad that a lot of us were saying that he had looked good at practice, not just me, but other reporters as well. And then he gets cut, and everybody. We're looking like we're, just talking out our ass or something, but
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Damn right. And then released corner Harrison Hand got injured during the game. Obviously Trice went to season ending IR, and we already spoke about Helms being out for a while. And then today we released Austin Mack, wide receiver from CFL, Robert Burns, which was running back as well. And we signed 2 corners named William Hooper and Josh Thompson, who I immediately had to Google to find out who the hell they were. Right. And looks like Josh Thompson was going to be a really good special teamer. I think he was for the Titans, play outside. I don't think he has nothing to do with what we're going to do at safety. I don't think that, I don't think that affects you at all if you're going to get just. And then people were worried about the money. I saw, look, if we extend AJ, if we restructure, I don't know, say Lindstrom, we could open. There's ways to open up some money to, if we wanted to sign Justin, we could do that. It's just a matter if they want to do it now, and that's I really hope they do personally. Yeah. So those are any other. Did I miss anything? Does that sound all right for all the roster moves?
That's everything they've done. Yeah, that's everything they've done. I would say that Josh Thompson one. It's like DeMarco Helms played special teams, so like there's like literally a special teams job there, and I think that they said that he specializes as a gunner. So I think that's essentially why that move was being made. But ultimately, it's not even a lock that he makes the team, let alone any of these other guys.
Exactly.
Squad. So
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right, man. Jay, what's up? Good to see you, man. Yeah. So on to the game. So obviously Penix started and looked good. I mean, I thought, obviously he hit the long pass down the sideline to Chris Blair, missed Casey a few times. Washington, had him got open a few times, made some really good decisions. They asked him out during his press conference. I mean, obviously you were there. Dude, he seemed so chill, just like, yeah, it's just football. I've been playing it a long time. Like, I was good. No nerves. Like, it's just football. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's really how you went about this. Like, the man, like, that's like balls of steel right there.
Yeah, he was chill. I feel like Falcons fans watching him were pretty chill watching it, whether it was a complete or incomplete. It's like the whole thing is kind of fascinating to me because he's top 10 pick. But he's not starting, right? So no one has the expectation that he has to come in and play well.
Exactly.
We all just kind of get to kick our feet back and see how he does. And if he kind of screwed up, it wasn't going to be that big a deal. And if he plays amazing, that's great, So, I think that it turned out pretty well. Like I've been saying, it's hard for me to really say like, oh yeah, that was great or that was bad, because that's kind of just who the Michael Penix that we've seen here in training camp, which I think is a pleasant, is a good thing, considering he is playing at this caliber as a rookie.
100%, and it's a rookie. I mean, it's a rookie's first game in action in the NFL. It's like, I don't, and I basically, like this year especially, watching this team and just being a fan as long as I have been, and like other folks can probably relate to, it's like I try not to get overly hyped about the preseason just in general, you know what I mean? Like, because you can be, if we all recall, like Desmond had a hell of a preseason, before he against he went off against the Lions, everybody's like, oh man, this dude's going to be amazing, and then here we are.
That game winning throw.
Sure did. So it's like, I try to get too high on those things, and I try to get too, and even when there's bad performances too, like I try not to even just crap on guys, because again, some of these guys, especially practice squad guys, this is the first game action they've seen in a year.
Right.
It's like truly, true game action. So it's like I try to give everybody kind of a chance to kind of, before I just toss them out, unless there's just some horrific performances or something like that. Then we can talk about it. But and then it looks like, man, Carlos Washington got a lot of play, and more than I thought. Like I thought we'd see a little bit more Jace than we did, and Jace had more success running the ball, as far as just yardage and everything. And he looked, the one run he had where he was carrying about 4 or 5 guys with him, that's pretty much the Jace McClellan you saw at Alabama. Like he's just a bruiser, going to likes contact, he's going to run through you, that type of guy,
right?
That's what I expected to see. I thought I would, I thought I would see more. But what's been your take on that kind of battle there going on?
Yeah, I think that with those guys in this particular game, it was mostly down to like trying to distribute the carries in a way that gets you through the game. And Jace is a guy who, he didn't have OTAs. He's kind of been worked up, I think, a little bit slower, kind of been thrown in a little bit later, just because they have plenty of depth at that position. So I don't know if he was ready for as big of a workload in that particular game of like live reps as Carlos Washington was. So I think that that's the main reason why he got them. I would say that I think Carlos Washington has been the better back between the two of them so far in training camp. But I think it's harder for him to make the roster still, just because Jace McClellan was a drafted player by, this regime. Carlos Washington was on the team's practice squad all last year. They can probably stash him there again, most likely. Or if not, probably pick up somebody who's very similar to him. So this is one of those unfortunate circumstances of kind of the way that the hierarchy ends up playing out when it comes to making the roster. But, I think both of them are showing some good things. But it's unfortunate for both of them that I thought that, I thought the run blocking was genuinely terrible from the Falcons in this game. And I got to say,
yes, it was.
I think, Storm Norton was playing on that right tackle in that game, and that was the side where they were particularly horrendous. He was playing next to Andrew Stuber, and I don't know, I didn't watch it in enough detail to determine whose fault was who on every single one of these plays, but just when there's that much continuous penetration, doesn't make you feel good, running the ball especially. And Storm Norton seems to be a pass protection specialist at this point in time.
Yep.
It would be interesting to see how that would change Atlanta's run game potentially if he had to, play an extended time in the regular season.
Yeah, we're in a weird spot, right? Because McGarry is so damn good at run blocking.
Yeah.
Like, so damn good. And then, but pass blocking has still just been it's just been a mixed bag. Like I said, sometimes he's okay, but if there's a speed rusher, like he's probably screwed. We've seen it over and over and over again. And it's like, and I always go back to our buddies, the Bolt Bros, because they, Storm was on their team, and dude, they could not wait to get his ass off their team. Like when he was gone, we had him. We were on a show, and they were just talking about how much. And when we signed him, I was like, "Oh God, is this good thing?" Because we signed him, I think, off the Saints, at the time, because like he went there after San Diego, and he was like, "No, dude, this guy." And then he comes out and balls out for the most part. When he had to start for McGarry, and I'm like, and they I remember James texted me like, "Dude, why are we like a parallel universe? Like what has happened? This is not the guy we saw in San Diego."
Yeah.
So who knows? I definitely hopefully that hope that McGarry can keep healthy during this time.
He blocked D'Angelo Malone today. I just noticed on a particular rep because I was actually noting that D'Angelo Malone is actually getting a rep with the second team, which he hasn't been. But you're down you're down Braylon Trice now, so I think he and I think Bradley and I both got some more reps today. But anyways, he was lined over Caleb, and the run was like between Caleb and Chris Lindstrom on that right side. And McGarry literally just takes one arm and just kind of throws D'Angelo Malone away from the play and just kind of runs at him with one arm, just blocking him. Yeah, it's just insane. And it goes underappreciated, honestly, because he does have genuine flaws to his game as well, Caleb McGarry, which we saw exposed very early in last season, which I think kind of set the tone for the way that people were thinking about him. But yeah, I mean, I talked to Dwayne Ledford about him earlier this offseason, and just like, he was just saying, like, you don't find run blockers like Caleb, at that position. Like they don't grow on trees. Like people like to think that you can just get a run blocker from anywhere, but he is truly a specialist at what he does.
Yeah, and you can shit all over PFF because we kind of do sometimes, depending, because you can, sometimes they just make no sense. But when you look at his from last season, it's like his run blocking is way up there and then pass blocking is way down there. So he'd always get a pretty decent average grade. You're like, where did that come from? Oh, because he had a 95 run block the entire game. So that's where it came from. But yeah, I mean, totally. It's it's a conundrum, man. But it's like he's definitely, like you said, with the running backs that we have, and we still want to run the ball like we are. He's definitely an asset. So especially him playing next to Chris this long. I mean, they obviously have a good connection with each other too. So, it's something that you just hope he stays healthy.
And I got to underscore that, John, like this team's, they want to run the ball, and they're going to be very good at it. I think they're going to be better this year than they were last year, just because of the diversity they're going to have in the run game this year. Man, they look explosive. Like even like Tyler doesn't kind of get the rep for being an explosive back because he is kind of the more powerful guy. But like I swear, like he breaks an arm
Dude,
tackle and he's gone. And
yeah, when he
on
cuts,
just
he's exactly, yeah,
yeah. So he's very much capable of it, and you can really see the push, especially when they're running to that right side. Like that is truly their bread and butter. And
mhm,
I just think it just going to get talked a lot as much about by reporters and stuff because you're trying to chart quarterback stats and stuff like that. And obviously, with this particular team, you've got a new quarterback that people are expecting so much of, and all the receivers that he has around him. So there's so much attention devoted to that, and it is genuinely harder to judge what's actually happening in the run game when you're just
for
watching a
sure.
scrimmage, especially from field level. But yeah, I think they're going to be still very solid in that area, and they're going to want to run the ball as much as possible. Kirk knows that he's not coming here to drop back 50 times a game. He doesn't want to be doing what he did in Minnesota.
No, and he had terrible pass protection in Minnesota. I guess he should be behind a better line here than he had
Yeah.
in Minnesota for sure. And got to mention too, and I'm not going to crap on Arthur, but did you see some of the reports out of Pittsburgh after their first game?
No, I haven't seen. No.
Dude, there was one like article like Pittsburgh wants Arthur Smith fired after game one of the preseason. And it was guys posting on Twitter like, "What the hell is this route concept?" Like it was like they were literally having our conversations, last
hmm
year about some similar things. And I was like, "Oh wow,"
hmm
but again, I'm not going to go down that whole road again because I don't think it was all Arthur. Clearly, we've talked about this. You and I talked about this. Like,
Yeah.
it was good. I mean, he had some good stuff and he had some not so good stuff.
Yeah.
Clearly, but yeah, it was just it was hilarious to see those Steelers fans kind of going off like one game of the preseason is not even really going to be like your offense. Like, so just chill a little bit because
Yeah.
but yeah, it was funny.
He's just got that. He has that stink on him, basically, at this point. That he's got to get off, but he can't get it off yet. You cannot get stink off of you in preseason. Like that's just like a rule. You can't have that. You can't do that.
Nope.
So it's just going to
Yeah.
stink for him.
I just hope they don't. I hope they don't
hopefully
get
until week 2.
exactly. And I hope they don't end up with Ayuk either, because that would suck if they came
Yeah.
in with Ayuk, and
Yeah.
that would not
That would
be
be,
fun either.
that is the kind of receiving tandem that Arthur Smith would like with like him
Oh
and
my
George
gosh.
Pickens. Like that is
Absolutely.
the kind of them run some double posts. That is dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And to finish off on Penix, man, like you said, just it was kind of cool. Like we were again watching it, just kind of like, oh, all right, he can make these mistakes, no problem. No, looks good. He's calm, cool,
Yeah.
collected. No big deal. So I saw some folks saying like, oh man, maybe he should start sooner. Yeah, that's still not going to happen unless again, like unless uh, he just falls off, or just falls off a cliff with his performance, or for some reason Kirk just gets hurt again, whatever. Like he's going to start for year one. Like
Yeah.
we know that for sure. Like there could be some circumstances that next year we may have a conversation depending on how this season goes. But for us, we hope we don't have that conversation because we want to have a long successful season drive into the playoffs type of thing.
Yeah. I
But
saw Penix hit like 3 dig routes today, like that backside dig route.
mhm,
Which is a great sign to see from especially a rookie quarterback. But because that basically means that they're kind of like going through their progression. That backside dig is usually kind of the last thing they get to when they're surveying the field. And I thought that was his best throw from that game, was that one to I believe it's
yeah,
Casey Washington
Casey
catching it
Washington.
kind of on his
Yep.
back shoulder.
Mhm.
Penix kind of stopped him, which was nice. So it helped Washington in that sense, kind of like sit down in that little soft spot. I'm not sure if it was intentional for it to be there. I thought that because the ball placement from Penix was a little all over the place. Maybe that was the juice that was running through him. He was overthrowing some guys in the game, but I know he
Mhm.
obviously had that deep ball, but down the sideline. But I thought that to get to that backside dig in that game, I thought that was probably the most impressive kind of rep that he had that showed kind of how he's progressed to this point. And again, he was doing it today, and I mentioned it to somebody. It's like Kirk Cousins is undeniably like a more accurate quarterback and the better quarterback. But there are certain things that Michael Penix does better than Kirk Cousins, and being able to just like rip that dig route, like when you
Yeah.
don't have much time, like when he's kind of like out of time, just has to, get rid of it. Like he can
Mhm.
absolutely fire the ball because he's got like nearly 11-inch hands, so he can just like he can throw it around like a baseball or something, like a Nerf ball.
insane.
It's it really helps in those situations.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's what we were talking about last week. It's like there's undoubtedly he's going to be able to throw the deep ball probably better, and obviously put more zip on it and get stuff into tighter windows, and stuff like that than what Kirk can. But yeah, totally agree. And it was Funny too, I think he said that he looked the wrong way on a play, but was able to come back. At least was calm enough to like, oh crap! But he still found a check down on it. Was able to. Well, so that's kind of impressive too, because a lot of young quarterbacks be like, oh shit, like what now? Kind of panic, maybe tried to just run out of the pocket, but he stayed calm, kind of still went through, still found his check down. So like,
I thought that
cool.
was one of the more notable things too about his performance was just the kind of calmness that he had in the pocket. Like not just his general demeanor, but like he never felt flustered when he was sitting back there with the ball. And also I think, again, to kind of go back to like the way he can grip the ball and kind of throw it without having to truly step into it. And I know this was kind of some of the knocks on the evaluations of him coming out of college, was he had these kind of funky mechanics, probably because he has had this natural advantage of his hand size to be able to kind of get away with some atypical things. But I wonder if it will help him actually prevent injury or avoid injury, because he doesn't have to really like kind of step into that throw on that front foot all the time. You want to see him, you want to see some kind of fundamental play if he's got that room to do it. But, that's what separates a lot of these guys, the Aaron Rodgers, the Patrick Mahomes. They're able to prevent injury as much as possible because they throw from these weird angles and with their feet not fully planted and stuff. And not to say that he's necessarily going to be quite the scrambler that some of those guys are, but I think, it could serve him well to kind of have that kind of presence in the pocket, and especially just with his footwork. Even though the footwork is not like it's not fundamentally how you would teach it, but I think it could come in handy, and I don't think it will hurt him too much.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. 100% agree. Other than that, other standouts in the game, and look, let's go through. I'll run through a few. Like, so we already mentioned Casey Washington. He's been looking good at camp. Had a good game. Of the fact he said he could play some defense. I'm like, all right, cool. So let's get you out there. Let's see what we got. But thought Harrison had a good game. Bulked up, got after the pass, got after the passer. Antonio Hamilton, who I believe it was. I think I forgot who was on Aaron's show was talking about it. You may have saw it, but said that Antonio could be like kind of nipping on Alfred's heels.
I think so.
That nickel spot,
I think he's like.
He played well. So
I think he's for being like at the fourth corner or wherever fifth, whatever he is, he's like very solidly on the roster. So like it's one of those weird things where it feels like the Falcons have a lot of like depth in terms of guys that they feel decent in, but you obviously don't have that kind of like high caliber guy that you'll is locked in next to AJ. Right. But yeah, he's definitely one of those guys.
Oh, it was Josh Kendall. That's who it was. He said he thought he was like, nipping at his heels. Yeah. He had a really good game. And I was happy for Kevin King too, coming back after 2 years. He had a big interception, had some good plays, and had good coverage too, for the most part. I mean, like, he had some sticky coverage on a few guys. So, which is great, because, corners kind of like D line, man. You never can have enough of those guys that can play. And then AK, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, like, I know. At least I read he had some good days down in Miami. Like, had a really one good day particularly, but it seemed like he played a lot. So, like, I don't know. Are they trying to fill out kind of like, okay, what can he do and what can he not do, or what?
I don't think he has I think he has pretty much the same exact role that he had last year, essentially, which is I think going to be a disappointment for a lot of people. I mean, I guess it is kind of a disappointment just based on the draft capital. Like, as a high second round pick, you're expecting someone who's going to play 3 downs for you. I don't think he's going to be that guy this year. I could be proven wrong, but I just don't see a role that this defensive staff is really comfortable with him. Especially when you considering the other pieces. Like, they've got other pieces that can do like things better than he can do on first and second downs, or in like non-obvious passing downs. But when those obvious passing downs come, he has shown last year he got to the pressured the quarterback quite a bit. He's just got to lock down on some of the fundamentals. It's tough.
The whole set of the edge thing is not working for him too well in the run game. That's which is obviously you can't play. You can't be a 3-down edge in the league without being able to do that. So
I know. So the way that a lot of people feel about Richie Grant and just kind of the high profile ways in which he got burned last year, that's how I feel about Ebiketie, where there's like very specific instances burned in my mind where the game could have been ended if he were to have brought a guy down who he had in his hands, but just
like
let
Kyler Murray,
or Kyler Murray, yeah, exactly, like, and man, in such a brutal stretch of this season too for that team.
It was.
So, but Who knows what's going to happen at edge? Honestly, after this Braylon Trice
I know.
stuff, like maybe they do go crazy and try to really go for it.
Yeah, so a couple of those guys we'll get into. Hassan.
Can I say one more thing? Because
Yeah,
you
go.
mentioned him, Zach Harrison. I
Yeah,
just think he looks so much better at this
dude,
weight. He looks so much
right?
more normal. Like last year, he seemed like kind of like gangly or lanky. Like he was like this
He's
big
too
long
tall to be that.
guy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And he looks so much more natural at this bigger weight. And I was talking to him after the practice they had at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where he just said like you can really feel like more powerful at that weight with that muscle and
I'm sure. Yeah, I
weight
mean,
added on.
and he came, and that's him. He came on strong at the end of the last season. It's like,
Yeah,
and then you put on 20 pounds, and you have that extra year under your belt. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
yeah.
And then yeah, so the possible, I guess, replacements at edge. Well, not really replacements. The possible trade options. And we saw, if y'all haven't seen, Son Reddick again requesting a trade out of New York. New York came back, was like, no, not going to do it. We expect you to be at practices. You're under contract. So who knows what's going to happen there? I don't know that. I don't know. Maybe I mean he would definitely fit. I mean, there's not about that. It's just a matter of is that the type of guy you want? And then Matthew Judon still hasn't signed an extension with the Patriots, and I think he's owed $6.5 million this year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Could be off on that, but I mean, for my money, man, go get Judon if that's the case, and and still, you could probably still work out Simmons, at that point. I mean, if you want to be greedy about it, but I mean, those are the two that came to my mind. I mean, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, I don't have any like grand ideas of what they could do at the position. Those guys definitely seem, again, like it feels to me like this season was setting up to be kind of like last year, where they were or potentially are going to have an opportunity to make one of these trades once they get into the season and kind of have a better feel for the landscape. Like maybe they get into the season and like somebody really surprised. Maybe Arnold Ebiketie does like blow up and he's like, and it's like, actually, we don't really need the edge rusher that much. We'll keep the second round pick or whatever it might have been to acquire him. So, but it seemed the Justin Simmons thing seems legit to me. Like, obviously, if they have him there for a visit, they are genuinely trying to like woo him, essentially trying to recruit him to sign with them. So that to me is the one that's the more kind of seems to be the more like urgent matter for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think everybody Everett Glaze on Twitter had put it earlier, like, hey, just let Jesse, be the one who greets him, and like let them let them talk, let them show him through the facility.
Yeah.
Call it a day. You know what I mean? Like that. That's let Terry come in, sign the contract.
I mean, that's such a dangerous tandem, though. If you've got Jesse Bates and him together, and these safeties nowadays, I feel like have more importance than maybe they have in years past with this kind of Fangio-esque kind of system with these that kind of high coverage contour with just like those defensive backs and a lot of that match coverage with those safeties have to play. I feel like their versatility and having good ones are maybe more valued than they have been in the past.
Yeah, dude. I was just talking with a buddy of mine today. We were talking about just the Grant in general, like Richie Grant, the safety position in general. It's like, man, you don't. It's hard to find guys that can be good box safeties and still be able to cover really good. Like that's like having like the right tackle who can run block and pass block really well. Like normally they're really good at one or the other. And if they're really good at both, they end up being damn good players for a long time typically. So yeah, like I'm with you, man.
And Jesse Bates is an underrated box safety. Like when he comes down, man, he flies into tackles. Yeah, and he kind of like goes. Yeah, he will stop somebody in their tracks.
Yep, 100%. Kenny, what's up, buddy? So what's up, Big John and Great Joe Patrick?
Kenny,
Dre, what's up, man? Good to see you, dude. Chris, what's up? Millie Mills, what's going on, man? Good to see you, dude. Yeah, so Tish had a question for you on Twitter. Tish, we appreciate you watching. She said, we're going to get to this too. Does Taylor Heineke get to practice at all?
The answer is no. But go ahead.
So I know he's there, but I didn't see him throwing at the open practice and no video ever posted of him practicing. He can't even be the emergency third option if something crazy happens this season. I mean, he was not good at all. And I mean, it's just too bad, Mike, if you're watching, buddy, your guy, he's not cutting it this year. So, but he knew that. I mean, watching Taylor's interview today, he's like, "Yeah, it was terrible."
Yeah.
But he knew like it
Yeah.
was sloppy, it was bad, like,
Yeah, I think he said it was unacceptable, basically.
unacceptable. Yeah, exactly. So, and it was. I mean, it was not pretty to watch at all. And then Work came in, wasn't. I mean, he wasn't great, but he looked a little better. It's like, so yeah. I mean, what say you on? That
He
third
does not
QB?
get reps. Neither he nor John Paddock or Nathan Rourke got any. I think I can recall. I think Heineke did get 2 reps at the last 2 reps of the practice at second-year high school, and I think those are the only ones I can remember him taking. Honestly, I'll see. Now I'm not talking about like they'll do reps when they're in like Indy and he's just like throwing a route to somebody. Like
Yeah,
I'm talking about like an 11-on-11 rep.
Mm-hmm.
Which he does not take. I think it's a smart play. The Falcons, they got to get Kirk Cousins ready to play, and they
Right.
got to develop Michael Penix. That's where all of your priorities have to go to. It's not towards Taylor Heineke, unfortunately for him, because then he goes into a game and he's not prepared to play. A lot of not on clearly just like not on the same page with teammates and stuff. You could just see the dysfunction, and I think that it probably just stems from them that exact position, just not having the reps. They're basically having to run these plays off of just their head, just remembering the playbook, remembering what everybody's supposed to do individually on these plays, having not done it together.
Exactly. D, what's up, buddy? He said, "What's up, fellas? How do y'all feel about wide receiver Grant signing?" Joe, Jakeem Grant
seems fine. It seems like a fine, lotto ticket flyer type thing. Saw a little bit of him today, just working individually and one-on-ones. Looks like he's got some impressive movement skills. You can see why the team would sign him. It's just a matter of like, it's kind of like with Kevin King and Eddie Goldman for that matter. It's just like when guys haven't played in so long, you just don't know exactly who they are 2 years later. That's how it is in sports, but it's a good flyer.
Exactly. What's going on, Mark? Man, make sure y'all check out Mark Sandy's channel too. Mark's doing some awesome stuff here in the community. So yeah, I don't know why the Jets would trade, but yeah, I mean, why would they? Exactly.
Unless,
right. Yeah, I mean,
unless their season gets off to a terrible start, and then I think that's why you wait a little bit into the season, because that's when assets kind of become more available. Not dissimilar to any other sport. It's like in baseball. It's like there's a reason why the trades happen at the trade deadline and not like in May.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What's going on, Ryan? Good to see you, buddy. The Birdcage. Make sure y'all check out Birdcage too. I think he's on Thursdays around 8:00, right before I think we go on, man. What's going on, man? And Mark said, "Yeah, let Jesse run the tour." Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I'll be like, "Yeah, I think Mr. Bates. So come on in, And
have you seen our new room?
Have you seen our new locker room? Have you seen our new gym? Like, I mean,
how convenient."
Have have the team chef make up some extra good shit for that night. Like just
it's kind of right. It's amazing that Calais Campbell came for a visit last year and they got him with the amenities that they had last year. Maybe they didn't show him the locker room.
I say maybe they just went to dinner and was like, "Hey, look, this is we kind of we have these plans, but it's not quite started yet." So yeah, maybe so. But anyway, from the game, anybody else that stand out to you that had a good or kind of not so good showing that we haven't mentioned?
I think we talked about most of them.
What do you think about JD Bertrand? Because he's one guy that's been talked about a lot. And I went back and I watched because I want to see like, man, this dude, I want to see like this guy's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's what my eyes want to see. And I think to me, it kind of looked like watching it back, just sort of react in some cases, like it's his first, NFL game type of thing, and maybe just not reading and reacting and just, being fast and stuff like that. Feet was a little slow in certain times. I think he's like, good, great. You've heard all along, really good tackler, very smart, instinctive type guy. Again, I didn't have a ton of expectation, but I mean, what'd you think?
Yeah, I saw somebody, or maybe somebody told me they thought he was bad. I didn't think he was bad. But he didn't like particularly stand out to me, but we did get to talk to him, which is why I'm glad you brought him up. Because I thought it was interesting what he had a lot of interesting things to say, actually. But he went through his like entire routine. So if anybody wants to know exactly what he does,
his morning routine, I heard that.
Yeah. But he was talking about how like he wants to know, like his goal is more on the preparation for the game than actually like playing it itself. And he's like, I want to know what every single player is doing on every single play, like that is my goal. I'm here to try to like be like the leader as the middle linebacker, making the calls and helping communicate everything. And I think that's a really healthy spot for him to be working from and not instead of being focused on the more physical stuff or even the more like, statistically based stuff. It's
Right.
more just like him being a teammate and kind of knowing what is going on for everybody on a given play. And because, it's so fun, like, it's so funny, a football player describes like a subtle little thing and you forget how much like it impacts everything. So it's like when the other team sends a guy in motion, he was talking about how Miami kind of presents similar concepts that the Falcons do, but they present it differently. They do it differently than the Falcons do. So like they might have a motion that affects it pre-play, and then like the motion creates a rotation of the defensive backfield behind him. That then, because the defense is then rotating, then your run fits change on the fly, and then like the ball is being set. So there's a lot of communication that has to happen really quickly right before the ball is snapped, and that's why it's really important for those linebackers to be the guys who are so aware of everything. And so I think it's a good place for him to be.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we've already talked about in the show, the guys that he hangs out with and has on a text chain with, Luke Kuechly and James Laurinaitis and Sean Lee and all those guys. It's like, I mean, he's got a great support group or whatever you want to call it. I mean, like just support system. And it's like, he doesn't. If he can be a contributor this year, then awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to. I thought he was okay. It wasn't great. It was just like I just figured like it's his first game. Like I kind of figured like, all right, that's not a bad start. He wasn't terrible, but see where he goes from there. But I mean, those guys, I think that's pretty much it. Mutin wasn't bad either. I mean, from spent last year on the practice squad. He was pretty critical of his own game. I mean, he was saying more, bad stuff, I guess that he did than he was really good stuff. But because he trying to be a contributor as well. But I mean, I think that was pretty much it. I just, like I said, overall, it was just like whatever came out of it good. It seemed like the injury just kind of overshadowed everything that came out of that game, which sucks. Ryan said that would be an understatement with their IQ. Yeah, it would truly be a no-fly zone with those two. Terry Fontenot, no need to be cheap right now. It's to be like committing highway robbery without a gun. 100%. Yeah, I mean, if you, like I said at the beginning of the show, like if you just want to go ahead and shore up that back end, you're not so sure about the pass rush. All right, well, let's make the secondary as good as it can possibly be to help that pass rush out. Because if they can cover longer and you give those guys up front, and we don't know. Like I said, a Rook or a Dorless or insert name here could like you said could come out this year and really just make a splash. You never know.
And it might be Cope. It definitely sounds like Cope, but I will say that this Falcons team really does seem to be creating pressures from the interior. I know that's probably what every team says they want to do and says they are doing when they don't have the very quality edge rushers like the Falcons are lacking. But I honestly feel like they have been doing that pretty consistently throughout camp, especially on Yamada. I just feel like he's so impressive. He's so overlooked again because you've got like the hometown hero type and Grady and exciting rookies and stuff that you drafted. But man, that guy is he is intense and so fast for his size and the way he moves around on stunts and things. I think honestly, the way that he moves along that defensive line allows them to do a lot of different things in terms of the kind of creativity they can have in bringing the rush.
Yeah, it makes sense. And if you ask, I mean, any quarterback where they don't want to get pressure from is up the middle because then they're off their spot immediately. They got to scramble, and that's, I mean, like you said, I'm not mad that's where we're going to get for. Okay, great. I mean, let's keep Grady healthy and Animata healthy and, throw Rook in there I mean, obviously with Harrison gaining that weight, he can move inside probably and come off that way as well. So,
yeah. And that's the thing in a 3-4 scheme, like I feel like there's more of an opportunity for those interior guys to make plays, especially in the pass rush.
And I'm sure you talked about it with JR as well. Like, some of those 5-man fronts that we're going to see, which is going to be a decent amount of, they're trying to get, he said last week, you're trying to get that one-on-one matchup, so you can't double a guy. And if that's the case, then, one of those guys can take advantage of it. I mean, and I found, and the cool little thing about Rook too, that I didn't know is he said he could be, if he wasn't playing football, he'd be boxer.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, that's great. Cause I mean, that's gotta translate for your hands, man. Like, it's gotta, I mean, you want to be able to hand fight. All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty good training for it.
I was asking him about that. And I kind of assumed at first when he was talking about boxing, I was like, okay, so you do that for like, to cross train to help you. He's like, no, actually, I just like really like to box. I would do it regardless, but he's like, but yeah, I guess it does help with your pass rush hand skills. But because I know there's other players on the team that do like some martial arts and that kind of stuff. I think I heard Lindstrom does what's it called? I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like
Something
one of
like
the
that.
different disciplines.
Right. Yeah. That's wild. I mean, yeah, that's a big dude to be doing that.
Whatever the elbows and knees are.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you, but we'll go with that. Elbows and knees.
I can't believe it's escaped me right now.
Yeah,
Rook is a big fight fan though. He couldn't stop talking about it. After he got done. I was like still talking to him about boxing, and he's like, oh yeah, do you watch the latest UFC? He's like, he's into
hilarious. It. Yeah. Ryan said, Odie Hilaire is my guy. I've been following since Alabama A&M. Before he transferred to Bowling Green, definitely a guy who can contribute immediately. He's a monster that I'm banking on. Yeah, he had that. He's the one that had. I mean, either thought he had the catch for the touchdown at the end of the game, right? So yeah, I mean, what have you seen of him so far?
Just solid. I mean, I can't say that he's like stood out really among any of the others, but I gotta say, for me, just like, and this is just like, I cannot tell. Like, I cannot tell the difference between OJ Hilaire. I mean, just like when I'm watching them, like field level game speed, you don't get replays. Like, I can't really distinguish a level of like, difference between a lot of these backup wide receivers. Hell, I had Austin Mack as a practice squad candidate, and they cut him last week or today or yesterday. So
today, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Mark said, John Joe, would you move any of our recent or second round picks, Richie, Troy, or AK? I will be less apt of those three. I'd be less apt to move Troy because I just still don't think we've seen the best of Troy yet, especially with that injury and seeing what he can do kind of in this defense. But Richie and AK, absolutely, yeah. If you had the right offer and it made sense, I mean, yeah, I would definitely listen. What about you, Joe?
I mean, Richie for sure. I thought he was even like a make the roster candidate, candidate. Right. Coming into this, now he ended up. That was like at the beginning of camp. Turns out he was like with the starting group for most of it, even though DeMarco was getting plenty of reps. But
yeah, if you listen,
I was tenuous.
Yeah, if you listen to our show at the end of last season, it's like, oh yeah, well Richie's gone, Mike Hughes is gone. It's like, no, but they're both starting right now, so no, they're not going anywhere. So yeah, no. What I was going to say before, AK, I would listen to AK, but again, you're already thin as hell there, so
right,
I'd have to be like a, have to make sense.
Yeah, so, agree. With the injuries specifically with both those players, frankly, with Richie and AK, it's hard to say you would give up either one of them at this point, unless you get in Justin Simmons. Then it changes the equation at safety. And I'm with you on Troy. Like, I think this could be a huge year for Troy. He had a forced fumble today, just kind of like knocked out a ball, kind of just like swatted it toward the end of a play. Got super hyped.
I said on the last show, like, and I don't know if you may agree or not, but like he just reminded me of kind of how Willie Moe played when he first came in, like just so like hair on fire, run past the play, just out of control. You know what I mean? Like,
good and bad that come with that. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's like he's like, and that's once that kind of like Willie got better at that throughout his career. Like he would still come in sometimes like a bat out of hell, but I mean like. It's once the game slows down, it's under control. You kind of know what you're doing. Like it makes more sense. And I think that's kind of what, hopefully, because we got to all remember, like Troy hadn't played linebacker that long. Like he played a few years, a year or so at in Montana. That was it. So I mean, yeah, that's basically where I'd be on that. And William, we mentioned that a little bit earlier. I think you haven't gotten to here yet, but yeah, so $3 million now. But like I said, if if they decide to extend AJ, like we've talked about, that you want to restructure Lindstrom, or if they want to touch somebody else's contract, they have the ability to do so. So if they really want to do it, they can open up some money. I mean, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable with them touching anybody outside of Lindstrom, to be honest. But
yeah, the Falcons can make money happen. They can make money appear like the Saints can't, which is kind of funny. It's like these two teams, and the Saints technically have more salary cap space, but the Saints are also like underwater on their mortgage, where the Falcons have their home paid, like they've bought their house already in cash. So they have access to financial means that the Saints do not.
100%. Yeah, I mean, and if the Saints can keep doing it year after year, then we got to be able to pull something off that we can do it too.
Yeah, I know, right?
But, yeah, it's ridiculous. So I mean, basically, man, going through camp so far, has there been? I mean, we, just to kind of pick your brain while you're here. I mean, we mentioned Mike Hughes. Like, I was genuinely surprised that and I heard when coaches, one of his first couple press conferences, he was like, "Yeah, like I watched the film, and like I saw some really good things, and we talked about on the last show a little bit that Mike's typically throughout his career been a lot better playing outside, and last year he played mostly inside, and he struggled big time last year with that.
Mm-hmm.
So hoping that he is able to go back outside this year and actually play good ball. I mean, what have you seen in camp? I mean, has he been solid, good?
He's been better than I thought that he looked last year with the role they had him in last year at the nickel, which is it's clearly a different role, and it's clear that he's just literally playing in a different position essentially than he was last year. Where I thought last year, honestly, they were using him more like for run support more than anything else. I thought that was basically the reason why. Whether the stats back that up or not, I don't know. But I think that the reason why they inserted him was to help in run support. He made I remember today he made a really nice pass breakup. He also got beat on a play, for a big gain. So not like smoked, but just like, it was like a flag route and was just like in trail coverage and, didn't make the play. So I wouldn't say I can't remember him like getting like egregiously beat. And he's made a fair amount of plays. I don't have any indication that he's going to be amazing, but I don't think he's going to be a huge liability either. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll generally be fine. Like I've been thinking about the corners that this team has had going into the season opposite AJ Terrell the last couple of years. They had Casey Casey Hayward, was that his name?
Yeah.
The 2 years ago, and then Jeff Okudah last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okudah was, I think, genuinely good to start the year, but then really, really faded hard. And I thought he was genuinely bad, like by week 8 or 9 of last season. And so I think Mike Hughes will be better than that version of Jeff Okudah. I don't know if he'll be as good as the version of Jeff Okudah we saw at the beginning of the year, but we'll see. I think he's probably better than Casey Hayward.
Well, that's a plus.
We saw Casey Hayward for like 2 games.
Exactly. I was like a cup of coffee here, and that was it. Dude. Freaking Okudah fell off big time, and that was it was way after that injury. It was definitely hurt. Mark said it's odd that we trade for Okudah, let him walk, and then start Hughes. I know. I hope for the best. Hope it works out. If we're playing a lot of zone too, that
true
definitely helps. And depending on who the other safety is, because again. We've said it before, but you don't necessarily want to see Richie in that deep third of the field because that's not his specialty. It's where he's been hurt before.
Yeah.
And I asked the guys last week, so I'll ask you too. Is there a position battle? I know there's not a ton of battles really, for certain positions, but is there one that has been just just really stood out to you, or yours, or and also part B to that question, is there a guy you're really rooting for to make the team, or a guy you kind of expect to take a big leap this year from last year?
The big leap one, I think, is a guy we've already talked about, in Troy Anderson. I think that he's the guy he seems ready to me, for that.
He's got a Fu Manchu right now. You cannot not be a badass with a Fu Manchu. You gotta, if he starts off sucking, he's got to shave that anyway.
Yeah, but he just looks so good. He just looks so. He's so athletic. It's
right.
You'd be salivating over any uber athletic linebacker that been starved from seeing play because of a pesky injury that happened last year, the torn pec. And the other thing is about his injury in particular, it's not something that I think is really going to slow him down. If it was a torn Achilles, we'd be talking totally differently about what Troy Anderson's prospects were, or hell, even a torn ACL or whatever it was. But it was an upper body injury, so he still has all that natural athleticism in his legs. None of that's been lost, and man, he can just do so many different things, including being one of the best special teams players in the NFL, I think. We saw that a couple years ago when he blocked the punt. Had some great moments in coverage.
Yeah, he just has deceiving type speed. You look at him, he's such a big dude.
Yeah.
It's you don't think he's going to be that fast. You wouldn't think it if you just walked up.
Yeah.
Right. He's 250 or whatever, and he legitimately 4.4 speed, flies. So yeah.
And I just think that profile of player really could give this Falcons defense a totally different kind of edge and dynamic to it, don't you think?
Definitely. Oh, big time. Because it's something we've missed for such a long time.
They were kind of plotting that interior middle linebacker spot was, they were solid players, obviously, but they were very limited in what they could do with Lamb and Ellis.
Yeah, big time. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I hope that can be. And then on the offensive side, I mean, just what I've seen of Kyle looks such like a completely different guy from last year. Because I mean, watching the film last year and doing the reviews that I did, you could just tell. I mean, like it was either, it was one of two things. Either he was really hurting still, or he was just didn't give a shit anymore. And I knew he didn't like his personality the way I knew it. At least it's like I know it's not B. He's got to be hurt. And of course we find out after the season, like his knee was a lot more hurt than we thought it was. But yeah, he looks like a different guy, man. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that he's his own kind of. He wouldn't say this. I think he was literally asked clearly, like today, like, what are your expectations, whatever. So he would never talk about his expectations, but I feel like he's got to be feeling like he's going to have the best season that he's had in the NFL, like with the kind of knowledge of the game and, of the league and what it takes to be an NFL player that he has now after having been a pro for a certain amount of time, on top of, having the best quarterback that he's had throw to him since that rookie year. I got to think that he's just feeling so good about what could lay ahead for him. And on the topic of the quarterback, it's kind of funny. This little anecdote that I noticed from practice today. Like after practice, we were kind of standing around. I can't remember why I would have been standing near this to hear. But anyway, Kirk is with Drake London, and Kirk is like running down the field. He's like showing Drake like how the route should be run or something. And so he's like literally running the route. And I hear Kirk's like, if he's here, that's my problem. You have to be doing, it's like, and so, but he's like literally like instructing of like, how he's going to help you in the route and how, we can make this more efficient, basically. How can we complete more of these passes? How
That's
can we,
awesome.
So those are the kinds of things that Kirk is doing with these guys that I think give them a lot of confidence that not only just the offense itself going to be impressive, but that they can make the most of their own individual opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I just think that for Drake, for Kyle, for Darnell, for all the playmakers on this offense, like Kirk's gonna be the best thing that's so far that's happened to them in their career. I mean, somebody who can get them the ball on a consistent basis, deliver it on time. I mean, like I think it's gonna be. I don't want to get overly excited because we know what happens when we do that. But I mean, high hopes for the offense, man. High hopes for the offense. We were just a damaged fan base, dude. There's nothing we can do about it. It's like you start to get really happy, and you're like, oh shit, but wait, hang on. Something could happen. So let's just calm that down. And chat on here and on Twitter. If you guys have any final questions, we're gonna wrap it up here pretty quickly so you can get in for Joe. Mark says it's been quite a camp for Bijan and Tyler. Any thoughts on the RBs?
I'm assuming that's a typo. That's been a quiet camp. I'm gonna guess from Mark. He said quiet, but I'm assuming he meant quiet because I would agree with that. I think we talked a little bit about that. That's just. So. It's not like sexy to be, and it's also you just don't quite understand because you can't quite see like the lanes that are being opened specifically and kind of what exactly is happening in the run game. But I'm expecting. It's tough because I think honestly I feel like Tyler has been the most impressive back in this training camp. Just like I feel like there are runs that he's made where if it was full tackle, he'd be breaking an arm tackle and be taken to the house. Mm-hmm. Where Bijan is obviously kind of like cutting more, he's a lot of, when you're standing on the sideline, and you just kind of see Bijan go into like a mass of humanity, and you just kind of like see his helmet kind of like bobbing in the middle of it. that's Bijan style.
Tyler just straight through the middle.
Tyler just, just straight through. Kind of describes their styles. But no, I think that both are going to have good seasons. I think Bijan's going to have a lot more catches this year, so factor that into your fantasy football. But there's like Kirk can basically hit him on almost every single play. Like he's like always an option. And unlike Desmond Ridder, I think Kirk is going to be very much maybe not looking for it, but like not displeased at all to just take those little checkdowns because that will ultimately then open up more downfield for you. I think Desmond Ridder would have been a lot more successful if he went to those checkdowns a lot more. We saw Taylor Heineke basically beat the Colts by throwing checkdown passes to Bijan.
It was
barely threw the ball downfield.
Right. And I mean, I've heard Kirk say it multiple times. Like, my job is to get the playmakers the ball in any way that I can. And if you can get it to Bijan in space, then like if you've seen tape on the man, like that's a pretty good recipe to, for success. Let him go out there and break a few ankles. I mean, that'd be fine.
The other thing with Bijan is I do think that they are just like not giving him a ton of reps just because they want to save him, because they know they're going to use him a lot in the regular season. So they're just not trying to really wear him out in practice. They don't need to see anything from him necessarily.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they've seen enough on that. As far as the offensive line goes, anything with Dahlman or
It's so smooth, man.
Saquon?
It's there's
Yeah,
like it's so I was talking to somebody the other day, like when I first started covering the team. I think it was like one of my first press conferences. It was just like a training camp press conference in the morning 2 years ago, and Arthur Smith was saying how 3 of the 5 offensive line spots were up for grabs. I think it was like the first press conference he did to start training camp,
yeah,
because that's when like Caleb McGarry was not even a sure thing at right tackle.
right, right.
And I forget who was playing left guard that year. It was left guard and center, were the other 2 that were up for grabs. But anyways, yeah, I mean, those starters take basically all the reps. Now they will throw in Storm Norton, Ryan Newsel, and Kyle Hinton a little bit sometimes with that first group, I think, just to kind of practice if there's for those contingencies where a player has to go out of a game, how are they going to work it? But yeah, it's all looks solid, honestly. And
Bergeron looking good in year 2
Bergeron's
so
looking
far?
solid. Yeah. Again, with these linemen, it's a little harder to really
Yeah.
fully analyze them without the all-22 film, but
Mhm.
there has not been anything like noticeable. Like he's not like leaky in pass protection. I talked to him last year, and like he said that there was kind of a learning curve at left guard in terms of
I'm
like where
sure.
you punch and like how you gain leverage from your punch, and it's lower when you're at guard. You have to like kind of punch lower than like when you're at tackle. You want to kind of get out on their shoulder a little bit more. So that was an adjustment for him. And you could see him early on last season, like losing that leverage battle to a lot of those interior defensive tackles who were frankly bigger than him and just had kind of like a different kind of like power mass from which to like attack him from. And
Yeah.
so I think he's going to be much improved this year from the get-go. And which if he's as good from the start of this season as he was kind of the way that he finished last season, I think he'll have a fantastic season.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, thankfully he's able to stay healthy last year and just get a ton of experience. And like you said, I mean, kicking inside from the tackle, it's definitely different. Guys are coming at you quicker and they're bigger, and it's it's definitely an adjustment for anybody. So, yeah, to hear that, that's awesome.
Where I will say that I think that they could potentially struggle is if they have to do a lot of natural dropbacks, like without play action or anything. Like,
Hmm.
I just don't feel like some of these guys are naturally suited to playing that kind of game, like just as like natural pass protectors. Like even a guy like Chris Lindstrom, even though he's not a bad pass protector, like the best part of his game is kind of utilizing his athleticism, which is not necessarily like his kind of athleticism, his ability to move out in space, which is obviously where they've kind of made their name in that outside zone. Caleb McGarry,
Yeah.
obviously, we know his struggles with the kind of drop back passing protection. So that if they get into those situations, that would hurt them. And then the other thing that I think that this offensive line is still could struggle is in some of these goal line situations, like when they're like on the 1 or 2 yard line with a center like Dahlman, who's kind of an undersized guy, again, similar to Lindstrom. It's just hard for them to get massive pushes against like, these 330-pound defensive tackles that get thrown in against them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as far as some of the pass protection, I mean, I don't know how much you've seen or how much you can really tell, but I'm guessing that Charlie Warner is going to have provide some help over there on that right side.
Yeah, no doubt
Yeah,
about it. This
yeah.
team's going to play more 12 personnel than the Rams did last year. I know there was like the whole talk about like them running like 96% 11 personnel and like
Yeah,
how that
no.
would translate to Atlanta. Like I
Yeah,
think Atlanta's still going to be pretty high 12 personnel team just because like Kyle Pitts gets coded as a tight end. So they're going to
yeah,
have there's going to be a lot of sets where Kyle Pitts and Charlie Warner are in at the same time.
yeah,
Um, and it's probably
makes sense.
it could be a running play then or something. And also, there's also quite I've seen them definitely working some 2-back stuff with Bijan and Tyler both in the game at the same time as well.
Yeah, why not, man? Make it as much of a headache as you can for
Yeah,
the defense trying to figure out what the hell you're doing.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean that's for me that's to see how Zach Robinson's offense kind of you know gets its start here. That's kind of what I'm really looking forward to because I know
yeah.
I've heard Kirk talk about there's some similarities to how Kevin O'Connell ran it, but it's not like it's just there's definitely differences where
Mhm.
where he would have done something in Kevin's system where it's complete opposite, in Zach's system where he's like, oh, I've always ran it this way. Now I got to do it this way, So some subtle changes he has to get used to, but at least it's not completely new. It's just something that he can just make some subtle changes to, and then he can help everybody else in that. So, um, and Mark said, appreciate it, man. Great insight. So I got to have
Good to go,
Joe on,
Mark.
man. So, yeah, man, that's about all I had, buddy. Like I said, if there's
Sweet.
no more questions in the chat, man. I mean, anything else you want to throw in there? I think we covered damn near everything.
Yeah, this is fun. Good stuff. Yeah, I can't think of anything. Just looking forward to another preseason game, at least for that first quarter of it. I'm sure will be good. It's got to be.
It's going to be a lot better. It's going to be awesome. I promise. And then, I guess we'll finish with that. We'll finish with that. Anything in particular you're looking for in this game against Baltimore?
Nah. No.
Just a little bit.
It's just a time for me to kick my feet back and watch Penix throw the football again.
And please stay healthy, for God's sake. Nobody else get hurt.
Yeah.
No, I hear you, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for coming by tonight, man, and enjoying it. We're going to be doing this, guys, throughout the season. We'll have Joe on whenever he's available, and
definitely.
And keep it going. And when Mike gets back, my plan is to be back on again Thursday night, talking more about the Ravens game and whatever moves. Hopefully, cross all of our fingers and toes that Justin Simmons is a Falcon. Maybe even by then, who knows? Anything's possible. I need the Mike sounder on that one. I missed it completely. But
anything is possible through Christ.
There you go. There's Mike. I got to do one drop of Mike in the show until he's back. But anyway, look, y'all, we appreciate y'all coming by tonight. Like I said, I wasn't even really planning on doing a show. Like I literally sent Joe a text yesterday. I was like, hey, you want to do a show tonight? And he was like, maybe tomorrow, because tomorrow I'll be at practice. That's actually better. So, we'll much appreciated, man. But like I said, I'll be back on Thursday. That's the plan. Thursday night, 8:30 with Savion from Sporting News, Savion Mixon, and Fleet also from Sporting News. So it may be Trey. Who knows? I may have some more guys pop through as well. But we'll just get into some more, like I said, Ravens game and whatever happens in camp this week, any moves that we make. So thank y'all, man. We had up to about 100 folks in here between Twitter and YouTube tonight. So much appreciate y'all for coming by. If you're on Twitter and you have a YouTube, go over, hit the like button for us, man, and subscribe to the channel. We much appreciate it. Again, you can email us, atlfalconfancast@gmail.com. I didn't put this, I do all these things. I create banners. I create these things. I never fucking use them. I never use them. I start talking. I don't use them at all. And then next show, I'll go create new ones. I won't use those either. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I'll put the merch. The merch description will be in the description of the video if you guys want to support the channel that way. We much appreciate it, man. All the guys, people that submitted questions tonight, man, thank the chat so much for coming by. We appreciate you guys. So we will catch y'all Thursday. Joe, man, drop where the people can find you at and anything you got going on, man.
Yeah, you can find me on X at JAPatrick200. And then for Falcon stuff, I'm with 929 The Game. So just, keep it locked to 929 we're basically covering Falcons training camp around the clock, essentially.
Yep, so that's pretty much where I'm out and about working. That's pretty much what my radio's on all day long. So,
nice. Love to hear it.
All right, guys. Yeah, man. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. We will catch y'all on Thursday. Out of your Falcon mind. Peace.